Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're excited to introduce our presenter this week, the one and only Mr. Ken Ferrell, PGA Employment and Career Consultant for the Southern California section. Good morning, Ken. How are you today?
Good morning, John. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much for being here. It's all yours. Take it away. We'll monitor the question box here, and when your presentation concludes, we'll open it up to Q&A. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, John. Thanks to all the SCPGA members and associates for being on the presentation today. I appreciate everything that you do. This is a tough business. It's an interesting business. It flows up. It flows down. It's been quite a ride with COVID and everything else, and amongst all the other challenges that we've had. But you're the reason that golf is great, and I appreciate all your hard work and all your efforts and all your accomplishments in the industry. I want to thank the SCPGA section, one, for putting on these Catalyst seminars, and then all the work that they do for us as PGA members. I want to thank John. John's been just phenomenal at setting up these Catalyst seminars, and he truly is a servant of PGA members and associates. So thank you, John, for that.
Thank you, Ken.
One of the opportunities that I have as a career consultant is doing fee-based searches, and so other than a employer posting, let's say, a head professional position on the job board and getting resumes and go ahead and proceeding forward in the hiring process, they actually reach out to the PGA. There's 19 of us across the country. And who's ever in that specific area will go ahead and administer the search from the beginning to the end. We charge $7,500 for that. I've worked with the club at Morningside, Tradition Golf Club twice, Mesa Verde, Hacienda Golf Club, Oakmont Country Club, GM searches, head professional director of golf searches. And the advantage of that is that I actually, as I'm administering the search, I sit in and watch the committee do the interviews, and I watch the PGA professionals come in and really perform during their interviews. And it gives me a lot of insight into what employer is looking for, and then the performance of the PGA professional as well, and why they succeed, maybe why they failed in the interview, what they bring to the table. And I take a lot of notes, and as a result, we put a manual together based upon that to actually do these searches. And it's been a great help for me to talk to you about preparation for interviews, and that includes all phases of the hiring process. So we administer that, don't make decisions, we just keep the committees focused on the candidates and help support them through the process, and help them make smart decisions, which is best for their clubs. So with that, and because of the information that I gather from employers and also from you, PGA member associate, kind of narrowed this seminar down into 4 areas that I think are critical to succeed in the hiring process. So here's the 4 areas: resume and cover letter, the first interview, the second interview, and then negotiation. And what I'm going to do is, you'll see a bunch of slides, but I'm probably going to talk off of the slides. Most of the content down there really is to remind me of something to tell you, and the things that I tell you really are from successes or failures with regards to what I see between the employer and the PGA professional. So we'll start with resume and cover letter. And by the way, this PowerPoint is available to you. I am more than happy to share all of it, send it all to you, and there's a lot of information on here, and I did that on purpose because if nothing else, there'll be a specific area that you may want more information on, need to improve in, any of those kind of things. So you can always call me, and then we can dive much deeper into it, and I'm happy to do so. So reach out to me via email if you want this PowerPoint. That way you don't have to take notes, and we'll go from there. So start with the resume. And I guess the first thing is, does your resume read like a career obituary? And a lot of times it does, and I'll tell you why. And that prompts a lot of comments I get from PGA professionals, such as, I send my resume in and never hear anything, or I get to the first interview and never get to the second interview, or I get to the second interview and am never hired. And so I hear that a lot, and it always starts with the resume and what it looks like. So we're going to talk about the resume and what the critical points on it are first. Really, bottom line is, you've got about 30 seconds to convince me why you should stay, why I should bring you in and talk to you. So if you think about that, you better get right to the point on your resume and your cover letter. And remember, the resume is fact. The cover letter is your personality and also an opportunity to meet objectives. And I'll talk about meeting objectives when we get to the cover letter section. But it better happen very quickly at the very beginning of your resume. It better be very good and right to the point of the position. And I'll explain that. Okay, so the first thing is, typically what happens is people start their resumes with an objective, and it usually sounds like this: to utilize my strengths and abilities to help a facility achieve its goals and further my career towards upwards career enhancement. So if an employer gets 40 resumes, 35 of them are going to say that, and I don't know what any of that means. Just wasted about 7 of those 30 seconds on an objective. There are times when an objective helps if it connects exactly to what the position is. My preference really would be a summary of qualification or core competencies, and I'll show you, rather than objective, if you put a summary of qualification that said successful history of fiscal and financial success, driving revenue, strong leader mentor, service excellence, membership sales, award-winning merchandiser and club fitter. When I read a employment posting, I read them with a highlighter. And as I go through it, I highlight all of the priorities that come out on that notification. And then I connect my skills to that. So my summary of qualification or core competencies are going to match exactly what those priorities are. So the ones that I put down here are very, very important to employers. Leadership is always first. Financial success and membership seems to always connect with each other and run second. So if you have those skills, those are very, very important. So if you take a look at the ones that I just wrote down, I kind of brought these up off the top of my head. Fiscal and financial success, doesn't matter if the club is a member-owned or profit, it still has to succeed financially. And the way that it's going to succeed financially really is through member retention and member growth. If you can be a part of that, no matter what position you're in, whether it's a teaching professional, assistant professional, tournament director, head professional, general manager, if you can connect with the membership director and have the ability to grow programs that retain members and also bring members to the club, you have a huge value to that club. So you want to state that to the employer, and if they see that, I promise you they will be impressed. So fiscal and financial, leader, mentor, ability to develop, hire, and train, which ties right to the skill level of the staff, as well as service excellence, which of course every club is looking for. Involved in experience in membership sales, award-winning merchandiser, if that's something that's really important to them. which in a lot of cases it is. And by the way, probably from time to time, I'll talk about the questions that are asked in an interview. One of the things at a private equity club is, what's your philosophy on merchandising? Is it a facility for profit or is it a service? So that would connect right to cost of sales, what your philosophy is on what cost of sales, pricing should be, different things like that. And then exceptional instructor and club fitter, those two tie right together. And then if you notice, I also put some programs or equipment that you might put down: TPI certified, skilled in flight scope, JC video. Sometimes you might put club links or Jonas, any of those kind of things that you're qualified in. That's about 20, 30 seconds of information that connect right to their priorities. Now you've got their interest. So this is kind of an example of what a resume would look like. Keep in mind there are resume samples on pga.org under the area. If you can't search, and you'll be able to reach out to me, and I can always help you with your resume. So if you take a look at this, first off, I am surprised at how many resumes I see that do not use the PGA logo. You can download the PGA logo from pga.org. Keep in mind that this one is the logo with the rocker. The most current one has the logo, a rocker, and then on the side it says PGA Professional on it. But if you start with this one, if an employer looks at this one, 21-year track record of improving shareholder value and earnings, that's important to us. Recipient High Performance Achievement Award from Dale Carnegie. That's the first 5 seconds. That makes a real statement right there. That immediately shows high achiever, and that's what they're looking for. Communications and human relationships. Now, the core competencies, sometimes it's called summary of qualifications: leadership, communication, strong administrator, staffing always is important, interpersonal skills. Then you go down to an introduction, which I like, which shows certified PGA professional in fiscal management, increasing revenue, strategic planning, competitive programming and growth of the game initiatives, mentor. Those kind of things are hot buttons to the employer. So within the first 30 seconds, I would say this resume, one, it's attractive. The second thing is this person is highly skilled and is a high achiever. The next part of your resume is to show experience. And a lot of times when you put the golf club itself, it's usually highlighted on the right is the dates. You don't need to put March 2009 to present. You don't need months there. That's not necessarily. And then underneath, it's not a bad idea to kind of italicize the words and just give a quick explanation of what the club is. So for example, if you're submitting it to a member-owned facility, they want to know if you have member-owned experience. So right away it says Green Valley Country Club's a high-end member-owned facility with 400 members. Who it's designed, and then it shows credibility. The club has NCAA or PGA Tour championships. So that gives the club credibility, and it's a high-end member-owned facility, and already they're checking off the boxes. Really, hiring is a process of elimination, and what they're doing is they have a whole list of things that they're looking for, and when they look at your resume, they're checking them off. So does he or she have high-end member-owned experience? Check. Have they been at a club with credibility that has tournaments, a PGA Tour championship? I remember the golf course that I managed. That was important to the owners. They wanted a PGA Tour championship out there, so we worked real hard to get a senior event. Check. And that's really what they're doing. They're checking off all the boxes. So the next thing is when you list your experience, list accomplishments. What happens is I always see 80% of the resumes I see, they list job duties. And employers, in most cases, know what job duties a head professional or a general manager, an assistant professional does. They want to know what you did in your job duties. Did you make your workplace better? Did you elevate the people around you? Did you build programs that succeeded? Did you sell memberships? Did you retain memberships? What is it that you did made that position better? Because they know that if you succeeded at that job, you can bring those talents and skills to their facility as well. So look at these. I just kind of came up with these real quick. Budget exceeding $3 million. That shows the scope and size of the club. And I'll give you an example. If you do a merchandise bullet point, you can say, oversaw the merchandising operation. Well, that's a job duty. That's a responsibility. But and that could be sales of $100,000. But what if you said responsible for a total golf shop merchandising program with revenue in excess of $600,000, maintaining cost of goods sold at 70%. Now you're providing more information, and you're also showing the scope of your responsibility. Much more important. Same thing with teaching. I oversaw the junior golf program. And whenever I see that, I always ask the professional, well, you might have been the worst in the country at it, because this doesn't tell them anything that you did with it. So what I'd much rather see is started a junior golf program, increased participation 30% year over year, generating $40,000 in revenue a fiscal year. There's some good fact and some good information for them so they can understand the size and scope of how you grew that. And by the way, if you grew that by 40,000 at your current club, they have a junior program that's 5 times the size. They know if you did it there, that you can do the same at their club. And if you grew it at your current club, you probably grow it at their club as well. So that's important. Leadership, as I mentioned, is probably always the most important. Lead an exceptional staff of 25 team members. Be careful of using the word I. You always want to talk about your team of professionals. This is a good one. New player development programs exceeding prior year rounds of golf by 12%. How valuable are you when you can show that? And then merchandise sales by 15% through a tournament sales program. For the rest of the resume, and there certainly is more to a resume than kind of what I'm showing you. There's formal education. Professional education is important. And then leadership and achievements. Remember one thing, everything you put down on a resume, how does it have value to the employer? And then the other thing is, you want to be careful about raising red flags. And I'll give you an example. I had somebody one time put that they volunteered at a drug and alcohol rehab center. And I suggested to the person, that's phenomenal that you did that. But the problem is that it raises a red flag. Well, do you have a drug and alcohol problem? So be careful about what you put down, and anything that you put down is absolutely critical that it shows value to the employer. So always keep the employer in mind. It's very, very important. Reference portfolio, a couple of thoughts here. Do not use the current employer if you do not want them contacted. You can say something like on your resume, a confidential, please keep a resume confidential at this time. That's not a problem at all. I see that all the time. And of course, the best time for a job is when you're employed. And it's difficult sometimes when you're looking for a job, or you get people reaching out to you while you have a job. That happens a lot because you're a great golf professional, and you want to be careful about what your current employer is thinking. You know, are you out searching for another job? I use a variety of references. Don't choose the same. Make sure you notify your references. I'm surprised how many people don't. The other thing too is make sure you know what your references are going to say. That's very, very, very important. People have used me as references before, and between you and I, they haven't asked me, and that was a mistake. And the reason is because my reference probably wasn't a very good reference for them in some cases. Here's one, craft a quote from your reference and ask them to edit and give you permission to use it. It's not a bad thing to put on a resume, and most people don't do that. So, cover letters. Cover letters typically are short, 4 short paragraphs, but they need to have some really solid content. And the other thing too is they need to explain why you're interested in the job. I'm surprised at how many people, one, don't ask for the job, don't do a good job of selling themselves, and then the third thing is meet some of the objectives that an employer might have, such as connecting to geographic location. We're from Southern California, you send one up to the Pacific Northwest, an employer saying, why do I need to go to Southern California when we have so many great golf professionals here? The other thing too is, do they have any support up here? Will their family be happy? Do they understand the culture, the climate? You want to connect with that. And you might say something like having family up in the Pacific Northwest and spending a lot of time there, or growing up there. We are looking forward to moving back to that location. Immediately they say, well, they've got family, they've got support, they know exactly what the climate and culture is up here, so we're comfortable with that. Skills and the value that you have to offer. Sell yourself. Do not be shy about selling yourself and connecting. Initiate next steps and then close. Be very, very careful about using the word I. So many people start their sentences with I, and it reads like, I did this, I did that, I am this, I am that. And you want to restructure those sentences so they don't have so many I's and my's in it. So that's it on the cover letters. Again, samples of cover letters are on pga.org, and I am more than happy to help you with those as well. So let's talk about your first interview for a second. You have the Job Hunters Toolkit on pga.org. It's an amazing document that is full of everything you could imagine, including some of these things, how to prepare your documents, interview questions, tips, negotiation, all those kind of things. So use your resources. The PGA spent a lot of time developing these. Our department has, and hopefully you're taking advantage of them. Phone interviews, why are they conducted? Bottom line is employers interested, and they want to find out if what they see on paper is real. They want to see what kind of presentation you make. They want to see how you're dressed. They want to see how you look. They want to see how you speak and what kind of presentation that you are going to make. That's really what they are. Keep in mind, as I mentioned, that hiring is a process of elimination. And phone interviews really are to eliminate candidates. And if they can't eliminate you, you go into the good pile for a face-to-face interview. Skype interviews, same thing. They're interested in you. They may have candidates they want a quick look at. You could be from out of town. One time in one of the fee-based searches, I suggested that they give candidates the option, the out-of-town candidates options. We had one from Pacific Northwest, one from Colorado. It's expensive in first interviews to fly down. Typically, a employer will pay for second or final interviews, not the first ones. So I reached out to the candidates, or the committee agreed to do it. I reached out to the candidates and gave them the option, and they said yes, they will Skype rather than face-to-face interviews. Of course, a lot of this is a little bit different with the COVID situation. But as it turned out, one of the Skypes, a gentleman from Colorado, actually rated the highest of all of the first 10 interviews. 3 of them were done by Skype, 7 of them were done face-to-face, and and he interviewed at the top, and then they brought him in face-to-face for the next one. So that's what, whether it's a Skype interview, a Google Meet, she's doing Zoom, any of those kind of things, that's the reason that they do them, and it's a way to cut costs in the hiring process as well. So what should you bring to the interview? Additional resumes and cover letters, references, any kind of presentation that you want to make, whether it's PowerPoint, video, portfolio. I'll talk about a portfolio in a second. And then great candidate questions when they ask you. Your questions back to them show how interested you are, and there's a lot of really, really good questions to ask. And if you don't do that, then they're not going to think that you're very interested. You really need to prepare. If that means going to the community, going to the schools, learning the town, any of those kind of things are really beneficial. Going onto the website, making sure you know what the club's challenges are. One time I actually found out from a member of a club what their three biggest challenges were at the club, and I brought in, a part of my portfolio were programs regarding those. So before they asked, I showed them the programs, and they were checking them off their list before they had an opportunity to ask. So your preparation is critical, and if you don't, or you're not familiar with their club and you haven't done your homework, that will be a problem for you. Another part of the thing that you might do, usually these are done in second interviews, but in your portfolio you can also put a 30, 60, 90-day plan. If you were hired, how you would start. And there is a sample 30, 60, 90-day plan on .org, and then I can send you one as well. How many members? Profitability, culture. Those are the things that are important to know when you're in your interview. And I remember helping somebody get to a Titleist, and one of the launch monitors, they called the launch monitor Betsy. And the person in the interview found that out, and in his interview, he was talking about the launch monitor and called the launch monitor Betsy. Later on, I brought in the person to speak, who was the hiring person for Titleist, and they did hire that person. They said one of the reasons we were so impressed with this candidate was they had prepared so well. In fact, they even knew our pet name for the launch monitor, which was pretty smart on his part. Okay, a couple things in your first interview. Your energy in the interview is so important. It's very important. You need to smile. You need to have fun. Doesn't matter if you're nervous. Everybody's nervous. Go in there and have fun, smile, and show positive energy. Your posture should be sitting up tall throughout. Even if you start to get comfortable, you need to continue to sit up tall, lean in forward, have your hands folded in front of you. Be careful about pointing, hand gestures, banging on the desk, tapping your pencil. I always see those in interviews, and it bothers the committee as much as it bothers me when we're in the interview process. So I'm trying to read the interviewers. What's important to them? What's important to the club? Sell your strengths. They have certain needs. The questions that they ask are because they either are very strong and want to continue in that fashion, or they're weak in those areas. So you can ask a follow-up question before you answer. It gives you a little bit of time, and it helps you also understand a little bit deeper about why they're asking that question. I watched a candidate one time, didn't do it always, but in some cases for a general manager search, ask questions after the question to understand a little bit more about where they're coming from. It was amazing how much the committee divulged about their situation and why they were asking that question. So the candidate was able to really target and focus in on the issue rather than give a general statement. By the time the candidate walked out, that candidate had 5 times the information about the club that any other candidate had. It was absolutely amazing. Plus, that candidate had a notebook in front of them. They were writing notes, including what questions they asked. Keep in mind one thing, your first interview is preparing you for your second interview too. So there's a purpose to that. Hear this a lot. I'm interviewing but cannot get to the second interviews, or I keep coming in second. So here's a couple of items. The major reason for the second interview is so the employer can see how well you fit in with the company culture. That's really, once they realize that you're skilled, that you have the abilities, and that you are qualified for the position, the next thing is, how well does this person fit within our team, our company culture, with the members or guests of our club? So as you do a walk around of the club, your interaction with staff is absolutely critical. Your interaction with members or guests at the club is absolutely critical. That's very important. And then the other thing is to solidify your standing as a strong candidate, showcasing your experience, skills, and abilities for the problems that they face. They're going to deep dive into their weaknesses, and you're going to have the ability to really sell yourself on how you can improve those areas. And then also for growth. By the way, one of the biggest questions in an interview is, where are you on Saturday morning? Professional. And the answer is not, unless you're the teaching professional out giving a lesson. The answer is, I'm out on the first tee with my members or my guests. I'm accessible to them during prime times. Okay, negotiation really, truly is about leverage. In other words, what do you bring to the table, and how are you going to increase the value of the employer, the company, the facility? How are you going to bring value to the members? That's what your leverage is. And your leverage is your skills and abilities and more. So let's take a look at this for a second. The first thing is, you should use the compensation survey whenever you're negotiating, or whenever you're even going in for performance review. Or to me, and I'll help you with the compensation survey. It's on PGA.org. You should always prepare an outline and know exactly what it is that you want when you walk in to that meeting. You shouldn't kind of wing it. You should know exactly what it is that you want. Then you sell the benefits and value of what you bring, what your leverage is. You should understand all of the compensation components. It's salary, it's bonuses, it's commissions, it's teaching income, it's a percentage of programs you build and asking for a piece of that. It's tournament revenue. There are tons of compensation components. And nowadays, facilities aren't willing to pay the big salary up front and then give you smaller bonuses. They're willing to do the opposite, pay you a smaller salary, but give you the lion's share of a program or commissions or bonuses, meaning you got to earn it. In that case, they're not just going to give it to you up front. In fact, I just had this conversation yesterday with a employer who's putting out a job, and they're saying, look, the sky's the limit. I hope the person makes $1 million, but if they make $1 million, our club's going to make a fortune, and that's a good thing. So we're offering 50% of the total compensation by salary and 50% by bonuses, commissions based upon achievements. Negotiate in additional benefits. Sometimes you can't get it in salary or commissions or those kind of things. Know what benefits. There's a huge benefit listing on PGA.org, and I have a sheet that I can send you. And you should know what all those benefits are, because if you can get them to pay for a car allowance, your phone, PGA dues, education, sometimes those are dollars that come out of your pocket. And if you can get them to pay for it, it doesn't show up on your income, which is taxed. And so sometimes they can be better than actually getting the cash themselves. So some of those, like a car allowance, that would be considered something that's taxable. But know what those benefits are. There's a huge list of benefits that you can get that has value to you as well. PGA employment services, tools, and resources. So how do you find those? PGA.org actually was restructured, and when it was restructured, it is one, it's easier to find tools and resources. The second thing is that probably everything that you need is on there. And the reason is a lot of the things that you need in this area, career planning or services, we've listened to you and your needs and created a document for you. So whether it's interview pitfalls, whether it's portfolio tips, sample interview questions, resume tips, reference tips, any of those kind of things, there's documents for it. In most cases, it's in that Job Hunters Toolkit, but there's other documents on there or resources that are on there as well. The other thing, too, is I can be a big resource for you. I don't have all the answers, but certainly I know a lot of people that you can get to that are willing to serve, and that's what's so great about our section. And I'll give you an example. I had somebody yesterday say, Ken, I'm going into an interview, and I really need to be strong in finance. I've got a lot of finance questions, is there somebody that I can reach out to? And I said, yeah, this person in the section, actually happens to be on our board of directors, is an expert in finance and is willing to sit down with you, actually go over budgets, talk about financial statements, different things like that. So when you think about the resources that you have through our section, it's absolutely amazing. And then you look at the section, people like John Kulo who are willing to help you in any area that they can. When you look at Tom, Jeff, and Nikki, the leadership from the section staff is absolutely amazing. And then you look at the people on our board of directors. These are all people that are committed to serve all of us in any specific area. So if you went on PGA.org and you looked at board of directors and you look at the talents that they have in specific areas, whether it's finance, whether it's leadership, whether it's merchandising, whether it's teaching, for example, you could reach out to Randy Chang and talk about teaching. Bill Holbert, who's been on our board for decades. People like that are exceptional at what they do. They're the best in the business, and they're there to serve. So everything is there for you, and it's available to you. So I'm going to take about 5 more minutes and talk about career planning, and then we'll go ahead and start for some questions. The best thing that ever happened to me really was working for the person I first went to work for in business. This was back in 1984. It was at Yorba Linda Country Club. And I was very, very fortunate. It was Tom Sargent. He was on the PGA board at the time, and Tom was really working. Well, one thing that he was doing was really working on himself and improving himself in every aspect he could as a PGA professional. You know, and eventually he was a section president, a district director, does in junior golf. He's a national golf professional of the year, just an amazing person. And Tom really was the one for the first 3 years that mentored me. And what he did was he showed me the steps that led to me achieving the goals that I had. My original goal was to become a head professional. Tom pushed me hard on becoming a member as quickly as I could. He said, you have to be a member, or you should be a member to be a head professional. It's going to greatly improve your chances. It doesn't mean there's not be ones out there, associate head professionals, but you really need to get your PGA membership. And he pushed me hard on that. The next thing he said was, you need to be involved in service. And so back then, a couple of us started the Assistants Apprentice Association, is what we called it. And I got to sit on the PGA board as the president of the association and meet all the powers to be. What I learned from Tom Addis, Pat Riley, Andy Tooney, Harry Dickey, Bob Lovejoy, those people, was amazing. And that was continued mentoring for me. I saw how they were successful, and I wouldn't have had access to them had I not gotten involved in service. I probably wouldn't have gotten involved in service like I did had it not been for a mentor pushing me that direction. And so eventually I got my membership, and then I moved over to Big Canyon Country Club under Bob Lovejoy. And the club is so powerful, and Bob, just another, like Tom, another past president, the ability to expose me to people and to people that are building golf courses. In fact, at the time I was down there, there were 5 people at Big Canyon building golf courses, and ultimately I ended up getting my first head professional job over at Houston Ranch, opening that golf course for the Irvine Company. And the Irvine Company was people that I taught at country clubs. So that networking, that exposure that Bob helped me get was phenomenal. And the interesting thing about it with Tom was, Tom said, you're going to be here 3 years. If you're here 3 years and 1 day, that's too long. Something's wrong. And literally 3 years to the day, I moved over to Big Canyon Country Club. And Tom's point was this: you've got to continue to grow. You've got to learn all you can, and you've got to continue to grow. And I'll give you everything I can as long as you work hard. And then it's time to move on. And I thought, wow, geez, you're trying to get rid of me? And his answer was, no, I'm trying to help you get where you want to be. And I thought, now that's a great mentor. And that's what he did. And then Bob did the same thing with me. Interestingly enough, 2 months after I became the head professional and opened that facility, it turned into a general manager position, something I most certainly was not probably even qualified for at the time. But I'd opened the facility, was succeeding as a head professional, and they thought, you know what, we think you can do it. And I was able to do it. So, so my career planning changed. I never thought I was going to be a GM, but the opportunity presented itself. From there, I actually started a golf management company and had that for 6 years. After that, I actually leased a golf practice center, 50-stall golf practice center. I never thought that I would be able to do that. And then I was in education for 10 years, and I helped Professional Golf Career College open up 3 campuses. And then from there, a career consultant for 11 years. Some of that wasn't planned. I did tell Mike Lawson, though, when he was my predecessor as a career consultant, I did say, boy, when you retire, I'd sure like to have your job, because he used to speak for me at the golf college, and I learned what he did. He talked a lot about his career and his position, which helped me understand a little bit about what he did and why I wanted to do it. I did know I wanted to continue to be in service. And so 9 years at the golf college, helping people get into the golf business, and then 11 years so far as a career consultant, helping members and associates in employment services and career planning, those kind of things. So I had a very, very smart general manager in our section asked me one time, Ken, you know, I've achieved a general manager position and a regional manager position. What should I be thinking about with regards to career planning? And I told him, I said, you need to get ready for the unknown. And he goes, well, what are you talking about? And I said, things are going to happen to you and opportunities are going to be presented to you that you're not even aware of, because you're really, really good at what you do. And as people get to know you, they're going to say, wow, I would love to have this person run my company. I would love this person to be a vice president or the head of operations or the president of my company, those kind of things. And so part of career planning is saying, what is it that I need to be more educated, to be ready when those opportunities are available? So that carries right into things like the certification program, Master PGA Professional, going to a Dale Carnegie seminars, getting certified in different areas, learning food and beverage, learning financial acumen. As I mentioned to you yesterday, somebody out to me and said, hey, I know they're going to come to me with questions about financial planning. I think I need to get stronger. And those are the kinds of things that you can be doing now. If you're not strong in finance, budgeting, financial statements, don't wait until you're asked the question necessarily. Go learn those skills. Go ask your general manager. Go ask a corporate person. One of the mentors to me was David Foster, another past president of the section. He was my vice president of operations, and I went from a head professional to a regional director of golf. And David was an enormous source of information for me, and I really got strong in financials. So you can't wait. You got to look at those areas, and you got to say, what could I be doing now to further my education, to get certified in areas, get certified in TPI, get certified in SAM Putt Lab, know the launch monitors. That always comes up when we're in interviews with the committee. Tell us what launch monitors you're familiar with. Well, I'm not familiar with those because we don't use those. Yeah, but you still should be familiar with them. So that's part of career planning. Reach out to me with any information on some things that you might be doing. PGA, during the COVID, PGA made not the certification, but the specialized program available for free for 90 days. You know, what could be better than that? They're doing everything they can to make us smarter and better golf professionals. So that's kind of what career planning is. It's take your dream job. Where are you at now? What is your dream job? What do I need to be doing in between now? By the time I get that job as the head golf professional at Pine Valley or Cypress Point or Augusta National, you know, what credentials do I need to carry when those positions become available? Does my resume show that I'm qualified for it? That's a great way to kind of determine what you should be focusing on. So, John, I'm out of breath. I'm going to go ahead and stop there and answer any questions that people have. I want to remind everybody that I'm more than happy to send this presentation over to you, or you can always reach out and call me if there's any specific areas that you want to dive deeper into. John?
Thank you very much, Ken. To that point, I'll make a PDF of your PowerPoint so that it's emailable friendly, and I'll send that out along with the YouTube recording of this morning's Catalyst webcast.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Very much, Ken. Got a barrage of questions here.
Okay.
The fine line between bringing energy to a first interview and coming off as too eager. Can you bring some color on the difference?
Yeah, you need to be, yeah, that's a great question. Usually, in most cases, I see people lack energy. And I think the reason is they're constantly trying to settle themselves down because they're amped. They're on about 5 cups of coffee and they're amped and they're trying to slow themselves down. But I think that if you show very good posture, that if you smile a lot, that if you have fun in your interview, and that you're not overbearing and you keep it balanced, I think you'll come across with the right balance of eagerness. Your interest in the subject, for example, if they ask you about an interest in the subject, let's say it's merchandising and you're a great merchandiser, they're going to ask you a question about merchandising. Keep your answers fairly short. Don't go on with a big long answer for a couple of reasons. One, that will show over-eagerness. The second thing is get right to the point and focus on the answer. Really important. And then stop. because they're probably going to follow up with follow-up questions. If you allow them time to do that, then they're going to learn more from you rather than you just continually going in one direction. And that'll stop some of that over-eagerness or kind of overbearing answers and long rambling answers. So that's the thing I would do, is control myself there. I've seen candidates answer twice as many questions as other candidates because they simply answered the question and stopped. And the interesting thing is sometimes I'll see somebody really great in tournaments. They're asked a merchandise question. Next thing you know, they've turned it back around and they're talking about tournaments again. Excuse me. And they're showing an eagerness toward that. And they need to really focus and answer on the question itself. So a good balance, smile, enjoy yourself. Don't continue to ramble probably like I am. And you won't show up over eager. I think that's really important. That's a great question.
Thank you, Ken. How much work history should be on that resume, and how does that tie into how many pages the resume is? How far back should it go?
Good question. Resume should be 2 to 3 pages. If you can keep it to 2 pages, do so. If you look at Tom Addis, what hasn't he done in the industry? And what hasn't he excelled at and everything that he's done in the industry? His resume is 1 page, and he doesn't overwhelm you with that. So I would suggest 2 pages, 3 pages max. But remember one thing, if your resume is 3 pages, you're probably adding potentially a lot of things in there that's not relative to the job itself, and there's probably a lot of job duties in there. It should be under each part of the experience, there should be 4 to 5 bullet points of accomplishments. And if you do that, you can go back to probably the year 2005, which is 15 years. You know, if you go back to 1984, for example, if I did my resume and went back to 1984, I'm tipping off my age. I'd be careful about dates as well. And bottom line is, you know, I'm 62. I may walk into an employer right now and they say, you know, his retirement date is, let's say, 66 and a half. He's probably only going to be here for 4 years and we want somebody for 10 years. So that may eliminate me. I want to get into the door because I may say, hey, I feel like I'm a young 62 and I want to work another 10 years. So 15 years is probably more than enough, unless you go past 15 years and a job connects. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're submitting a resume to Colorado and 18 years ago you worked in Colorado. There's a connection there, so I'd probably leave that one on there. 2 to 3 pages max. Make sure you put page numbers at the top. At the top of each page, it should say Ken Ferrell, resume, page 2. Ken Ferrell, resume, page 3. I try and keep it to 2, and then a reference page is a separate page.
So I was going to add that comment. If Tom Addis's resume is only 1 page, then he must be tailoring the resume to the specific job he's applying for.
That's correct.
So that versatility, I would imagine, is a must.
That's correct. And keep in mind one thing, that your core competencies or your summary of qualifications is really going to show that you're qualified. Now what you want to do under your experience is really show what you accomplished. If you do that, you can keep that resume to 2 pages, I promise.
Can you give a couple examples of some SOAR structures, S-O-A-R?
Yes. SOAR stories, what it is really is a SOAR story. A SOAR story is something that you accomplished that you are very proud of. Is that what you're talking about, John? Or is that where the question's going?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would put SOAR stories in my portfolio, and I would bring those with me. what a portfolio does, it's really an illustration of the things that you accomplished. So your resume shows what you accomplished, but your portfolio, and I've seen somebody even make a PowerPoint presentation, is really an illustration in showing what you accomplished. Probably the best one I've ever seen. I hate to always name names anytime I'm doing a seminar, but it was the head golf professional is currently at Oak Hill. His portfolio, of course, he was the lead assistant at Augusta National, and his portfolio was unbelievable. So the backdrop always in everything he was doing was Augusta National, but the presentation he showed about him merchandising, him doing junior programs, they were all pictures, and it included members, it included him teaching, it included all kinds of illustrations of his work, and then it was backed up by references or excuse me, testimonials from members. So for example, he ran the junior program, and then he showed illustrations of him running the junior program and 40 kids out there, and then behind that, followed up with testimonials from the parents. And it was just phenomenal. If you saw that, you would say, wow, this is really impressive. So that's what source stories are. Source stories are what you've accomplished, and a way to illustrate it, I put it right in your portfolio.
So it's safe to say that the resume lists the accomplishments and the portfolio illustrates the accomplishments.
That's correct.
And supports them.
That's correct. That's why a portfolio is so important. And you know, if I sat in an interview room with a committee and we interviewed 10 people, 3 of them would bring a portfolio, which is surprising.
In terms of the headhunter business that's out there, particularly with high-end director of golf jobs and general management positions, what are some tactics? Because of course, those companies, it's in their best interest to have a backlog of candidates that they can shop to a potential employer. What are some tactics that you recommend in terms of getting on the short list for some of those headhunting companies?
Yeah, you need to build a relationship with them, and we're talking about companies like Kaplan Google, Wallace. If you have not gone to their site, just type in Kaplan search, and their website will come up, and they list the jobs, and all the jobs that they list are high end, and they are exceptional at what they do. Dennehy Associates, Dennehy Club Thinking Partners is another one. Kirk Reese was the general manager at LA Country Club. And he's a big force within that company. Go to theirs. Again, they have some very high-end jobs. And so they don't have the database that we do. We have 29,000 PGA members and associates, and the database that we do. So they have to go out and actually build it. And the way that they build it is through outreach, by attending seminars, by introducing themselves to people. And as they are successful with their hiring practices, more and more people want to be a part of their group, selection group. But it's difficult because they are doing searches for $40,000 to $50,000. We do them for $7,500. We may do a search for $20,000, but most of ours are $7,500. Their searches offer, or sometimes are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, but they also include some additional services such as leadership within the club, operations analysis, different things like that. And anytime you do a fee-based search, you cannot afford to fail. You are only as good as your last search, because word gets around. All the ones that I've done in Southern California really aren't through any marketing. They've all been done through word of mouth. So, for example, I finished up with Hacienda Golf Club, and then Oakmont Country Club was looking for a general manager. They talked to Hacienda and said, boy, we worked with Ken Ferrell. We got exactly the GM we want. You should reach out to him. And so that's that networking part. So how do you network with Kaplan Google or Dennehy or those kind of people? The first thing is you need to go on their site. You need to submit your resume. as a person really of interest in their jobs. That's the second thing. The next question is, if you're able to go to a seminar where they're speaking, or if you're able to go to the CMAA show or any of those kind of things, what you'll want to do is go up, introduce yourself, hand them again a resume, meet the principals of those companies, build those relationships, because they're all about relationships. Once you build that relationship, you're within their group, and then they you know, start to pay attention to you when jobs come available. The other thing is that they have helped position a lot of people like Rob Oosterhouse at Sherwood, Todd Kiefer, people like that. You can reach out to people that have been hired by them and said, hey, can you help me with the process? Help me understand who they are, how they work, and how I can get to them as well. So if you want some people that you can reach out to, contact me. I will give you some names, or more importantly, I will let those people know. Somebody like Rob Oosterhouse, I don't want everybody calling Rob, but I will ask Rob, I've got a couple of people that want to talk to you about KKW. Can you give them a little bit of information? That's probably the right way to do it. So,
thank you very much, Ken. A little after the 9 o'clock hour, that's all the time we have for this week's webcast for the Catalyst webinar series. On behalf of the Education Committee for the SCPGA, we would like to extend our gratitude to Ken for putting together a presentation and helping to educate us. We are appreciative of that. Thank you very much, Ken.
My pleasure.
For everyone that is on the Catalyst webinar this morning, you will receive 1 MSR credit for being on the call. For those that are accessing the webcast through the SCPGA landing page in the Catalyst webinar series, there is a quiz that will accompany this webcast. Take the quiz after watching the YouTube recording and submit it to Bryce Seaver at PGA HQ. Score of 70% will earn 1 MSR credit for attending this morning's webcast. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. We'll see you next week on the Catalyst. Stay safe, stay sane.